All right, everybody. The Pats are back. Drake Maye looks like he could be next up. We'll give you our thoughts. And this is the final podcast of the offseason before we get actual basketball. Celtics Grizzlies coming up on Wednesday night. We set the tone for our expectations for the Celtics preseason. And of course, as we mentioned on the last episode, we continue our look around the NBA. One interesting team, one interesting player, and why they intrigue us. All that and more coming up next here on Green with Envy. You guys know the deal. Let's lock in. What up, what up, what up? Welcome into another edition of Green with Envy, the final off-season edition of Green with Envy. Basketball on the court, actual basketball, not just guys behind a mic like us with internet connections. It's real live basketball coming up Wednesday night. Celtics and Grizzlies get underway here. We will have coverage for you following that game. As always, this is your boy Will Weir checking in. How you doing? How you living? Joining me, as he does each and every time, my best friend, co-host, and the coach of our podcast, the one and only Greg Manakis. Greg, real basketball is around the corner. Very excited.
I can't wait, man. This is the most excited I've been for a Celtics preseason game, probably since 2 years ago. The first time getting a chance to take a look at Drew Holiday and KP, right? Because last year, as we've talked about many times, it was just the same old, right? So now we get a fresh chance to see the new look, warp speed Celtics. Jaylen Brown is the number one option. Derek White getting his first All-Star campaign going, and then Peyton Pritchard. We'll see what he can do as expectedly the starting point guard in game one.
Yeah, see if he taped up that bullet wound that he's got in his neck from practice. That if you just see the gash that he had, that thing was extreme. We'll touch on that. We'll touch on some of the comments. Jaylen Brown getting into his streamer bag. We'll talk a little bit about that as we set the scene. And then at the end of the podcast, we'll look outside of the Celtics here as we continue to look around the NBA and set up this brand new NBA season. But Greg, as rejuvenated Boston sports fans, we had an interesting week leading up to what's going to be us, diving headfirst into almost all things Celtics here. We said goodbye to our beloved Red Sox after a week-long journey of being Red Sox fans. And we said hello to maybe, just maybe, the next big thing in Drake Maye, who had a national coming out party, which is funny to say in a game where he doesn't throw a touchdown, but he just made so many amazing plays that it really was a coming out party, taking down the MVP of the league the year before in Buffalo. Coming out party for Drake Maye. Do you have any quick obituary thoughts for the Red Sox? Or you want to just dive into the glory that was Drake Maye last night?
Yeah, I think we've missed the window on the Red Sox, so let's just go to Drake Maye.
Is what it is.
Man, he's good. Drake Maye is good. I didn't realize that last year the Patriots didn't have any primetime games, right? So we didn't get any primetime Patriots games last year. This was the first one in over a year. And to see Drake Maye in Buffalo after an ugly first half, right? He was still making some plays, but for the most part, he did most of his work in that second half. And man, Drake Maye on the move, rolling to his right. Stephon Diggs just like freelancing, developing a chemistry. We haven't seen a chemistry like that since Brady and Edelman, right? Like that's the level that they were getting to. Brady and Moss, Brady and Gronk, Brady and Welker, like Brady and insert, wide receiver or target.
Deion Branch, David Givens, Jabbar Gaffney.
Right. So it's like, what is this next generation of Patriots football going to look like? And we were so excited at the beginning of the season, just bringing back Mike Vrabel, bringing back Josh McDaniels, and having some, real football to watch this year. And it all really depended on whether or not Drake Maye was going to be that guy, right? We didn't know. We saw glimpses of it last year, but he had multiple concussions last year. We were concerned about his inability to just get down and slide. But man, Drake Maye, after watching last night, had me believing. I even texted to our fantasy group thread right before the last drive. I said, Drake Maye, first legacy drive incoming, because I was that confident that he was going to get it done. I hadn't felt like that since Brady, man.
Yeah, it was a feeling we haven't had in a long time, and I think it also goes towards having just like Stephon Diggs making plays. Like, I think that's also a part of this where and I never really bought into any of the Mac Jones brief hype period that there was. I was just like, we'll see. Like, and I just never believed it. And but even outside of that, to your point, I think when you talk about the chemistry, haven't seen like that's brand new. Like that it feels brand new, right? Like it feels like getting a new car, that new car smell. Like it's just so different. And having Drake Maye feel like we got a guy. Like we got a guy, and the rest of the season is just about seeing where he goes. Like I'm still not delusional. There's no Super Bowl, I don't think, coming or anything like that. But seeing the throws he made, where there's 3 throws that I really think about. There's obviously the one, him on the run, deep to Stephon Diggs inside, I think around the 5-yard line. Just like that's Mac Jones never had that shit, right? Like that was, you never would have seen something. Although Mac Jones played well the other night, but not the point. That throw, you see the tight window to is it Kayshon Boutte? I think is how you say it. The tight window to him, down the stretch, right in between 2 defenders.
Yeah, going against that cover 2, having to rip that ball in there against the cover 2.
Absolutely. And then, of course, the top one is that you've seen everywhere is him being dragged down by a 300+ pound defensive lineman on the run, falling away, makes the throw to Stephon Diggs. Like, it feels so good to know that in our group chat, we have Jets fans that are just reeling again. Like that's a good feeling. It's a good feeling because, you see these teams around you, and this happens in the NBA too, where we could list off teams in all these sports that just feel like they've been in purgatory our entire lives, right? And we were so blessed for that 20-year stretch. But as we've said before, you and I are not immune to, like, we grew up in the era of like the Pats are nobodies, the Red Sox choke all the time, the 90s Celtics. Like that's where we were born and bred. And yes, since you and I have been, 13-ish years old, we've been blessed, no doubt. So it's definitely weighted out in the aggregate in our favor. But like we know what it looks like. We're not unfamiliar with the symptoms. And so feeling like we're not going back there because of what Drake Maye showed, that was a really nice feeling to wake up to this morning.
For sure. And just when you look at the landscape of Boston sports, for those of you that may be listening for the first time, Will and I know nothing about hockey or the Bruins, so we're not going to be talking about the Bruins ever.
We
But
basically
maybe,
pretend like they don't exist.
yeah, but maybe one day we'll get into the Bruins somehow. I don't know. There needs
doubt
to be like a not Mac Jones, a Drake Maye level player, a Roman Anthony level player, a Jason Tatum level player to get me to like really care about the
Even
Bruins.
then, I don't know that I would still care about the Bruins. Just straight up
I
admitting,
might.
I don't know that
I was a hockey fan when I was a kid because I liked Joe Thornton, I liked Cam Neely, I liked Ray Bork. So I was
big Anson Carter guy, only black guy out there.
Yeah, you liked Anson Carter for obvious reasons. And I liked the Avalanche. Like I was a big Avalanche friend. Like when Ray Bork went to the Avalanche, I remember watching the Stanley Cup and being really excited for him. So like I have hockey in me. My dad played hockey, so like, and we grew up in a hockey town.
I always forget your dad played hockey, and he was really good at hockey too, actually.
Yeah, he was pretty nasty. So like it's in my blood somewhere. I can't skate, but I do know that, Alex works for the Capitals now. Our producer, Alex Gonzalez, is now the social media guy for the Capitals. And he's talking about, seeing Ovechkin up close. And if there's an Alexander Ovechkin type player like on the Bruins at some point, maybe that's going to get me to tune in. Kind of like, oh, Messi is now in MLS. Like maybe I'll watch more soccer, like that type. That's what I'm saying. Like there needs to be that level. I digress though. The point being,
how much Messi have you watched playing soccer?
I don't know where to watch it.
I mean, I think it's on Apple TV, but I don't know either. He's in the MLS, so I'm just asking. That's
right. That's what I'm saying. But like, if it was more available to me, like the Bruins could be available to me pretty easily. But we are very blessed right now to have these young players, especially as, we get older. We're in our mid 30s now. We each have children. Like as James gets older, I want him to grow up just like seeing awesome sports and being able to root for amazing players like we were able to. Like we're so fortunate to have watched arguably the greatest pitcher of his generation in Pedro Martinez, right? The greatest clutch hitter of maybe all time in David Ortiz, right? We saw Nomar Garciaparra at his peak. We saw Tom Brady, the GOAT, at his peak. We saw Paul Pierce, Kevin Garnett, Ray Allen. Like the hits just go on and on. Rob Gronkowski, one of the best tight ends of all time. We've been so blessed to see some of the greatest sports figures, not just in Boston, in all of sports. And I want that for the next generation, especially for James. I want him to see some really cool shit growing up.
Yeah, I mean, and we're in a time frame where that could be the case, right? Like whether that's, Drake Maye, whether that's Christian Gonzalez, who could be his Ty Law, whether that's, Roman Anthony, what we see with Garrett Crochet. Obviously, with Tatum and Brown, they're already there. It's how much longer are they going to be, in that window, and then see what comes after that. So, it's a spoil of riches, right? Like it just really is, even though, the Pats haven't been good for the last 5, 6 years, 7 years, whatever it's been since Brady left. Like it's been a downturn. But if Drake Maye, and it seems to be based off last night, is that dude, feels like the state of the Boston sports that we care about are in pretty good shape.
I got to bring on Alex because one, I got to ask him his thoughts on Drake Maye because he put some stats into the chat that I'll let him kind of cook on a little bit, and then I also want to get his thoughts on hockey in general, just because he probably knows more about hockey than us.
I think Drake Maye is awesome. I thought yesterday he was amazing, especially in that second half. The first quarter was a little up and down. Not really sure why we keep giving the ball to Ramondre Stevenson, but that's another subject. He had 2 touchdowns in the second half, so I'll let it slide. But yeah, pretty much a flawless second half from Drake Maye. He was making great passes like throughout the entire game. Like that final drive, he had 2 passes, but that completely won the game. He had Booty down the sideline, right on that corner in that cover 2 zone. He found the pocket, and then he had that incredible pass when he got to connect with Stephon Diggs. It's awesome. I feel we didn't have
Alex,
any.
Can I ask you a question here? It's gonna make me and Greg feel really old.
Mm-hmm.
What's your first like actual viewing memory of Tom Brady? Like what if someone had to ask you, like what's the first thing that you remember watching of like
live
kind of
or
Greg's
just
point?
watching?
Let's go live. Let's go live. I'm thinking of it from like James's perspective, Greg. Like when's gonna be the first time he's like, oh, like like the first time you remember seeing, Mo Vaughn or like Nomar a little bit, like enough to like fully understand what's happening live. What do you think that is for you with Tom Brady, Alex?
It probably was either I went to that, it's like 2011 Patriots Redskins game where Gronk had like 150 yards and was like absolutely insane. I think I was like 8. But before that, my first ever memory of Tom Brady, my dad actually had the disc of the 2001 Super Bowl, and I wanted to watch football in like March or in May, and there was no football on. So I think I've watched that tape maybe 7 times. So my first active memory is that Troy Brown touchdown in the Super Bowl where he turns around. It's a crazy catch. And yeah, I love that. I love that disc. I've watched it so much. And I love especially that Super Bowl where John Madden's like, I think they should just knee it and go to overtime. And then Tom he leads them down the field, and it's,
Dinks and
that was
dunks,
the beginning of the
J.R.
story.
Redmond, Troy Brown, Jermaine Wiggins down the field.
Yep.
Greg, does that make you feel old right there that Alex's first memory was after we had watched a decade of Tom Brady?
Man, I feel old every single day, dude. I feel old every single day. When ACL is going on right now here in Austin, Alex, it's like a big music festival that happens every year. And, some of the younger people in my office and on my team were on Friday going to ACL. And I was like, you couldn't pay me enough money to go to ACL this year. Like I'm not sitting in 95-degree heat waiting fucking 7 hours drinking red wine. Apparently they have better drinks now, Will. Like when we first started going to ACL, it was
I went
just
last year for
heavy
a
beer.
Day. They've got some
red
options.
wine. Yeah, cool.
Yeah, and they had this was the biggest. Just real quick, this was the biggest mind fuck, I guess. Was at one point they had cartons of water, but like think of like the school carton that you would get milk in, but it was water. My brain couldn't handle it. Between that and the heat stroke, I just couldn't do it.
Alex, thoughts on, do the Bruins currently have someone that is like a really exciting young guy that I should be tuning about? Okay.
I actually have no idea. I mean, I'm going to see it on Wednesday until we play, so I'll let you know after that.
Report back.
But I'm not really sure. The only guys I know are the Capitals guys.
Okay.
I feel pretty good about them. Although I saw the projection and they're projected to make the playoffs but finish 6th in their division. I'm not really sure how that works, but I guess we'll find out. Apparently their division is stacked. Yeah.
Yeah, we got some homework. Alex, did you by any chance, because Will never watches UFC, did you watch UFC 320 this weekend?
No, but I did see Pereira he like dominated whoever he was fighting. I saw people kept like saying that Chama was over and then he like won in 90 seconds or something like that. So I saw that, but no, I did not tune in.
It was one of the greatest. So Will, Alex Pereira, your Brazilian brethren, he's like the light heavyweight champion. He just called out John Jones. He wants a John Jones super fight, which would be fucking awesome because John Jones is like the all-time GOAT at light heavyweight and pretty much in the sport. And a lot of people are saying that Alex Pereira now is like, if he could beat John Jones, he might be like the GOAT of the sport.
Is John Jones still fighting? Isn't he kind of old now?
They're the same age.
The same age? Okay.
Yeah. He was the youngest heavyweight champ, or light heavyweight champ ever. So like,
okay,
he just been around forever. But yeah, with Pereira, so he was fighting this guy Magomed Ankalaev from Dagestan, from Russia, who like doesn't really talk shit, but his manager talks shit for him. And this is one thing that Pereira does where he like doesn't speak a word of English, so he just says chama. Like that's his phrase. It just means like, let's go, like, let's fucking go, basically. So anytime people ask him a question, he just goes, Chama. So Ankalaev in the press conference said, Chama is dead. And Pereira just like, he gets like really upset and he just goes, Chama. And then the whole crowd starts chanting Chama. It's so good. And he's just this like stoic dude that has like indigenous blood in Brazil. He dresses up in his ancestral war paint anytime that he has a press conference and shit. But it was bananas. Came out, knocked the dude out in 90 seconds. 12-6 elbows just raining down on him, hit him with a couple kidney shots. It was fucking good, man. UFC is about to get good, guys. It's about to get good.
Yeah,
I got nothing. Alex?
Yeah, I got nothing too. I
don't understand.
Jones,
go ahead.
Isn't he retired? Isn't he retired? Didn't he he ducked to that other guy, whoever he like?
Yeah, so he came back. He was retired for a couple of years. He came back, fought this guy, Cyril Gane, and then avoided Tom Aspinall, who's the current heavyweight champ.
Yeah.
This dude from Britain. And then he retired, actually retired, and then like a week later got buyer's remorse or seller's remorse and was like, no, I'm back in the pool because I want to fight on the White House card. But we'll see.
Yeah.
White House card. Can't miss that one. That's gonna be
it's gonna be here. Maybe I'll see it from my house.
That'd be pretty cool. All right, Alex. Thanks for hopping on, buddy.
We'll have to see. Appreciate it, Alex. Yeah, so a lot going on here. Greg, let's talk a little basketball. Let's transition us here to the Celtics and Grizzlies coming up. So as we mentioned, last podcast where we won't actually talk about basketballs hitting the hardwood because Wednesday night, Celtics, Grizzlies. Grizzlies not going to be at full strength. John Moran already hurt. Jaren Jackson Jr. already hurt. I think I saw someone else. Zach Edey also already hurt for the Grizzlies. So the Grizzlies not off to a hot start for their season, likely without all three of those guys, not just for the preseason, but to start the season. So let's take a look at the Celtics here, Greg. We've been seeing a lot of clips coming out from practice. We've been seeing Jaylen Brown on his Twitch stream, kind of giving some insights. Derek White's got his podcast. So the Celtics are giving us a lot to kind of feed on here leading up to this. I would say the number one thing that we keep hearing about, and we've already talked about this a little bit, but is this tempo. It's just tempo and playing more physical. Basically, it feels like the Celtics looked at that Pacers Thunder finals and we're like, okay, this is what we need to do. Pacers have the pace, the pace of play. Thunder, they're very physical on defense. That's what we're going for this year. And I'm excited to see it, but it feels like those are the two themes that I've continually heard across the majority of sound bites so far.
Yeah, it's great. We first heard it with the warp speed idea from Xavier Tillman. Jaylen Brown on his stream said, all we're doing is running. He said he feels like he's not a basketball player. He feels like he's a track athlete, right? And that's what Joe Mazzulla is seemingly doing with the team. Is just they're running sprints, they're running drills that have them running full court, full speed. And it's just great to see how quickly they're recognizing the strengths of the roster and how they need to adjust their play style, not only to fit the needs of the roster, but to fit, as you alluded to, how the best teams in the league are currently playing, right?
Mhm.
And if you know Joe Mazzulla, he's not going to back away from like a firefight. So Joe Mazzulla you could look at the guys like the Thunder and the Pacers and be like, okay, we need to play the antithesis of this and maybe to slow the game down, get them out of there. And he's like, you know what? No, we're gonna fight fire with fire, and we're gonna play at warp speed. We're gonna take advantage of Jaylen Brown being one of the best transition players every single year in his career. We're gonna take advantage of Peyton Pritchard being one of the fastest end-to-end guys. We're gonna take advantage of Derek White, who is also just thrives in transition, and I think could actually do even better than he's already done in a high-speed, up-tempo offense, because he's kind of just had to do what he has to do playing around Jason Tatum, who likes to play the game at a more methodical pace. So with those three guys, then you add in Anfernee Simons, you add in guys like Sam Hauser, who can get loose in transition. You add in guys like Chris Boucher, who thrives in an up-tempo style. And there's a world in which the Celtics could just be, maybe not record-wise, one of the best teams in the East, but one of the best watches, like NBA League Pass darling type team,
Right.
which sounds weird for a team that's been a contender for the past decade.
Yeah. Team that goes to the conference finals and the finals every single season. But you're right. I mean, that was kind of Pacers Kings 2 years ago, right? Like
And the
that's
Thunder.
kind of the era they felt in. And the Thunder, yeah, the Thunder, yeah, the Thunder also fell into that as well. And so, yeah, that is interesting to think about the Celtics living in that type of space. They're still going to get some national TV games, so they're still going to be a little bit more prominent. But as we're coming up to this game, it's funny. I hadn't really thought too much about Sam Hauser in this, but as soon as you said that, I think it was. He did a little bit last year where he started expanding his range in transition. And
Yeah.
so thinking of that, like now, and it's kind of just been gone from my mind. I'm actually pretty excited to see that. I'm guessing like these are the little things that are going to start as we watch, like, oh, I forgot that this could be something more. And like we think about, ways that made the Celtics so dangerous with advantage basketball, which is really what Mazzulla ball is. Advantage basketball is Porzingis shot threes from 5-6 feet behind the 3-point line, right? So now if you got Sam sprinting full speed into those 5-6, put 3-point shots behind the arc, like that's another weapon, right? Like that's something that's going to develop that can also translate to when the Celtics get a guy like Jason Tatum back. So I think it's going to be little things like that are going to be really fun to watch. Do you have anything else in particular or player in particular that for the first game, and who knows how Mazzulla is going to run, the substitution patterns? If what I can remember is that he typically kind of actually plays like a lot of the real guys for the majority of these preseason games. So I'm expecting to, not necessarily be like some teams where you go out there and it's like, oh, this is basically Summer League 2.0. Like Mazzulla tends to play the guy. So is there any one individual or one aspect that you really get your eye out on for Wednesday night?
I would say I'm just happy to watch basketball again. I took a real summer off. I didn't really consume much NBA podcast content. I took some time off. I just, enjoyed life, and I'm excited to getting back to enjoying basketball because it really started to feel like a job last year watching the Celtics. It like as great as it was to win Banner 18, I just like kind of didn't enjoy last season as much as I thought I would. So I'm excited to just getting back to, studying the game,
because there was nothing
looking
to talk
for
about. I even when we tried to bring up a counterpoint, it didn't feel genuine, didn't feel authentic.
Yeah, we were
Like
just
generating
content.
Yeah, we were talking about nothing for essentially 5 months.
It was tough. It was tough. But to kind of give you my thoughts on like what I'm really looking for is the comment I made earlier about Jason Tatum playing a very methodical style. Like Tatum's not a perfect player. There's plenty of things that people can complain about with Jason Tatum's style. One of the things is that you kind of have to play to his strengths more, having him fit in around like the other guys, right? The ball's going to be in his hands. He's going to slow the game down. He's going to play high pick and roll, see the floor, manipulate the defense. Like he's getting that good as a point forward. So when you have a guy like that, just because that's a very low risk, low turnover style of basketball, you kind of have to lean into it, right? Especially because Tatum's so good. But there's a lot of me that just wishes Tatum could play at a faster pace. And I think this is the season for the Celtics to show proof of concept and be like, hey, if you also buy into this warp speed style, like there's just nobody that's going to be able to contain us. It's not, warp speed for 3 quarters, fourth quarter, we slow it down and the ball's just in your hands for 12 straight minutes,
Right.
running a high pick and roll. It's actual identity. And that's what I want to see out of the Celtics as they start building towards that, and to see if it works. Because if it works and Jason Tatum buys into it, then that's like best case scenario. Maybe it doesn't work and Jason Tatum comes back and we just go back to running to the strengths of Tatum, or maybe it's a little bit of both. But I'm just excited to see it.
I think the last thing you said, a little bit of both. I mean, that's the one thing that I keep coming back to that I feel like wins in the NBA is versatility, right? And that's across the spectrum of your roster, of your trade and draft assets, of your ability to play double big, to play a single big, to play fast, to play slow, methodical, half court, the ability to do as many of those things as possible is what almost every team that wins has, right? Like the only thing I would say the Thunder probably don't do is shoot threes at volume. Other than that, the Thunder can probably play almost any way that you want or need them to play, right? And that's what makes them so difficult to be able to deal with. Of course, with on top of that, having talent, which we know the Celtics have the top end talent when they're fully healthy. So the more you can develop and the more you can have in that, Batman tool belt that you want to have, like that's what's going to be better for the long term of this team. And you get to figure out, who's still going to be here come next season, stuff like that. And for me, that's where I'm excited to start the Anfernee Simons experience. I want to see what this looks like. A lot of the quotes about him have been around drilling defensive principles, over the last month plus from his time, even before training camp started, that he got to Boston. And I want to see what that looks like. I want to see from a guy that, based on reputation, all I've heard is this guy doesn't play defense, right? Like that's again, we've talked about it. We've not watched a ton of Anfernee Simons. I know he's athletic. I know he can shoot the thing. I know offensively what I can expect. And I think he's likely, if I had to guess, probably going to be the Celtics' second leading scorer. But defensively, like where's the buy-in going to be? Because this team just went from having Derek White and Drew Holiday as your ace perimeter defenders. You still have Derek White, but Peyton Pritchard, not a bad perimeter defender, but he's small. Anfernee Simons, 6'3", but he's super athletic. So like, let's see what that looks like, right? Like, what is that point of attack defense going to look like? What does Anfernee Simons have? And something I keep coming back to a lot, and I'll talk about it again when we get to our interesting team, interesting player outside of the Celtics, Greg, is the point that you made about Xavier Tillman. It really stuck with me for whatever reason, about this being like, this year is so important to him because it's his last chance. Right? He has to be good this year, or he has to be serviceable if he's going to continue to have a journeyman career. For Anfernee Simons, and for a lot of players, it's that, but a modified version, right? Like for Anfernee Simons, if you want to get paid in this league, you better have a great year. You better find a way to fit in, buy in, and be a difference maker, right? Because if you're not here in this culture, in this setup where you're going to have a ton of opportunity with players that you haven't had before in a spotlight that you haven't been in, who's going to look at you and go, I'll give that dude $30 million? Right? Like no one's going to do that. So Anfernee Simons really has to, put his best foot forward. And maybe that leads to a long-term relationship with the Celtics. Maybe that leads to, a better opportunity for him and for the Celtics in the trade market. And so I think it's one of the most interesting parts of the season. And, based on the comments, it's going to start in the defensive end. So I'm excited to see what it looks like from him and see what buying in actually looks like.
That's a really good point. With the idea of being able to drill defensive principles. And when you get a guy that is a gym rat, and by all accounts, Anfernee Simons is a gym rat, just lives in the gym. But it's always working on offense, right? It's like how much of defense can be taught, like nature versus nurture at its finest. Like, can you nurture Anfernee Simons into being a serviceable defensive player, above average defensive player, a guy that you feel comfortable, to your point, putting at the point of attack on defense? Or is he just going to be like a guy that doesn't get picked on, right? Because if he's a guy that can be on the court and not get picked on, that means he can play crunch time. But if he gets picked on, he only has a limited amount of time in an NBA game to be on the court, right? And those guys can get paid, but they're not going to get the max money, to your point, right? So with the Celtics culture, with their identity, we talk a lot about how the Celtics don't necessarily have an identity on offense. Well, they have an identity on defense, right? They're always going to be some of the hardest players on the defensive end, with Derek White, with Drew Holiday in the past. Peyton Pritchard is a dog. Jaylen Brown's a dog. Jason Tatum, he can strap up when he wants to. Like, there's just so much that Anfernee Simons can take away from his first month in Boston, and looking back on a team like Portland, who is building a defensive identity, and said, you know what, Anfernee Simons doesn't fit here. So, like, where is Anfernee Simons going to fit as more teams try and find defensive identities to go along with their offensive identities? Because offensive identities can sell tickets, but they're not going to win games.
Yeah, exactly. And so it's going to be interesting to see what this looks like against a Memphis team, again, that's not going to have some of their main guys. But at the same time, Joe Mazzulla is not going to care. Joe Mazzulla, you could run the San Antonio CYO team out there, and Joe Mazzulla is going to do what Joe Mazzulla wants to do. He's not going to care who is on the other side of that court. And so that leads me to kind of the last point for me is I'm going to be studying Joe Mazzulla all season long. Like, I am so intrigued to see what Joe Mazzulla does with a group that has kind of a range of expectations, but not championship expectations, right? And doesn't have championship level talent. That's the biggest thing for me is he's had a roster for 3 straight years that was championship level talent, up and down. And so this year without that, what does it look like? What is Joe Mazzulla as a head coach with this type of roster? Because this is the type of roster where Brad Stevens would somehow, I don't know, like this was back in the day, that horrible, hypothetical question. Who would you take first? Brad Stevens or insert like franchise player here? Like dumb
the underdog Celtics are back.
Yeah, exactly. And so this was the team where you felt like in the Brad Stevens peak, before Jalen ever became Jalen, before Tatum became Tatum, when, Hayward and Kyrie either weren't here or they were injured. And you're like, man, like, I mean, this is like the exercise we did going back through the years where it's like this team had like Kelly Olynyk and Jay Crowder starting, and they were in the conference finals. Like,
right.
How did this happen? Right. Like, this is that type of roster. And so I'm interested to see what Mazzulla can do. And it doesn't have to be the same as Brad Stevens, but that was where you were like stamped Brad Stevens, top 5 coach. You can't tell me nothing.
Right.
I'm not taking him over Anthony Davis, but he's a top 5 coach. So for Mazzulla, I'm very, very intrigued to see what he brings. And this is going to be the first audition of many. So I'm excited to see Joe Mazzulla throughout this entire season.
Yeah, good point. Well done. Let's move on to the X factors.
Let's do it here, man. So as we've been doing here, or as we started last episode, we are looking at interesting team, interesting player around the league here, part of kind of a league-wide preview that we're doing. Last week, we touched on the Bucks and Miles Turner, the Pistons and Jaden Ivey. Greg, lead us off this week. Who do you got? What do you got?
Oh, I hadn't really decided who I was going to talk about, so I appreciate you putting me on the spot there. Let's see.
Well, I can jump in. I've got somebody.
No, I got one. I'm going to go to the Southeast Division. So for all you NBA fanatics out there, the Southeast Division consists of the Atlanta
Hold on,
Hawks.
Can I guess the Southeast Division?
Okay, yeah. Okay, go for it.
Let me see if I can. Because honestly, I heard you say the Hawks, which I knew anyways. Yeah. Okay, so it's the Hawks, the Magic, the Heat.
Mm-hmm.
Don't think it's the Cavs, Hawks, Heat, Magic. God, this is how stupid divisions are in basketball. This is really, really hard right now. I mean, that's what I'm trying to think around. I'm like, who am I missing? Oh, Hornets.
Yep.
Is there one more team that I'm missing in there?
The Wizards.
Okay. I wasn't sure if the Wizards were there or they were in the Atlantic, because whatever.
Yep.
But okay,
yep.
Cool.
So Hawks, Hornets, Heat, Magic, Wizards. I'm going to go to the Charlotte Hornets because there's a guy on the Charlotte Hornets that I think is very similar to the Anfernee Simons type, in which all he does is put up buckets. And there were some great videos of this guy in his first preseason game hitting some of the most bananas step back 3-pointers off of 1 foot I have ever seen in my life. And that is the one and only LaMelo Ball. This guy, LaMelo Ball, since he first kind of burst onto the scene, with Lonzo as his older brother, with LeVar as his dad, and he's this 14-year-old kid just shooting half-court shots in high school games. And you're just like, what the hell am I watching? And then he goes to Lithuania and plays professional ball in Lithuania. I can't remember if he ended up playing in Australia or not.
I
But
think he did. I think he played in Australia right before he got drafted.
okay. But he's somehow been able to be overrated and underrated at the same time, because I still think he's one of the most talented lead guards in the league. Part of it is he just can't stay healthy, and part of it is because he shoots step back 1 foot 3-pointers where you're just like, what the fuck? Just like his high school coaches are probably like, LaMelo, don't shoot fucking half court shots. Like, we can get a better shot than this, my guy. So like, I'm just so intrigued by who he's going to be as an NBA player, because I think this is a make or break year for LaMelo, just as can I be a winning basketball player or not?
Yeah, he fits into the mold of player that neither you or I are really big fans of for me, which was, the Karl Anthony Towns, Trae Young type. Like, I get it. You're super talented. Like, no one could ever watch basketball and deny that you're talented. But do I think you're a winning player? Not really. Like, that's where I'm at right now. But there are, and especially like when I think back, like my first impressions of LaMelo, like the creativity and mindset he has to see certain passes is like next level genius type stuff. Like it's crazy when it's on, but I find him so maddening to watch. And like, he's clearly the best player in their team, yet he regularly gets benched in the last 5 minutes because he's either that bad on defense or he's that bad at decision making.
I like what you said about him being a genius, because if you've ever worked with a genius before, and I feel like I've been lucky enough in like the music business that I've been in to actually have been around some people that I'd consider like eccentric geniuses, and they're almost impossible to get along with and almost impossible to work with. And I think that's kind of what you have with LaMelo. Like, for example, I had this project before Black Sheep Optimist with this guy Sloan. I don't know if you remember Sloan. Will, he was like young blonde kid who was just
roaches?
like he
No,
ate.
no,
So
no,
that's
no.
yes.
Maybe it is.
So
Okay.
Yeah. So there was one show in which I dared him to eat a cockroach on a stage on Halloween, and he actually did it. Like, he could have just pretended like he did it, but he actually ate the cockroach and he swallowed it. And I watched him, and I hadn't heard from this kid in 5 years because he had like a falling out. He was going through some stuff. Didn't even know if he was alive, to be honest with you. And then out of the blue the other day, I got a text message from him, and it was just talking about how he believes that the Jews did 9/11. That was the whole thing. And he sent me he sent me like 20 paragraphs. 20 paragraphs. I'm not kidding. 20 paragraphs about how that's what he has been thinking about for the past years. And he has wanted to reach out to me because he felt like it's something that I would care about too. And I was just like, I haven't heard from you in 5 years, my guy. Like, I literally told him, I was like, I don't want to read this. I don't care what you're talking about. This is absolutely crazy for you to be texting me this out of the blue after I haven't heard from you in 5 years. Are you okay? How about we start there? Like, hey, Greg, haven't talked to you in 5 years. How are you okay? And this reminds me of when you were just saying, Trae Young, Karl Anthony Towns, LaMelo Ball. To me, they're the types of guys that like look in the mirror, and everything that they see in the mirror is just like, like, I look so goddamn good. I can like do whatever I want. And everyone's going to play by my rule book, and I don't have to talk to anybody for 5 years, and I can come back and start talking conspiracy theories to my friends. Like, they're still my friends when they're not, because you completely alienated yourself for the past 5 years. You know what I mean? And I feel like LaMelo Ball could very quickly kind of get to that point in his NBA career where people look at him and they're just like, oh, you're going to be full Stephon Marbury eating Vaseline, crying on a stream in a couple of years. You know what I mean? Like, it's that level of crazy.
I'm a little blown away. I just didn't see this conversation coming. I didn't know where that was going. That is
I'm gonna send you
text
what
message.
he sent me, Will. It's bananas. You're gonna
That's
open
some
it.
crazy
You're
shit.
gonna open it and be like, oh yeah, this is like probably a long thing. And then you're gonna scroll and you're gonna look to the side and see like where the little, toggle is for how much longer you
Yeah.
have to scroll. And you're gonna be like, Greg was not exaggerating. If anything, he undersold how many words there are in this message.
Yeah, and it's interesting because like the eccentric genius that you're unable to get along with, like it's a real thing in artistry and in sports. Like in sports, I think we tend to look at it almost as wasted talent to a degree. And like I'll be honest, I hesitated to put Karl-Anthony Towns in there because I feel like he's actually shown more than I ever expected in the last couple seasons, right? Like Karl-Anthony Towns is making me soften my stance on him, but I still feel like Trae Young, we'll see, another big year for Trae Young also, I think, in this realm of what we're talking about. But I think LaMelo is the poster boy for, like you said, I think the way you put Stephon Marbury, Kanye West of basketball, right? Like of just where is this guy actually gonna go? Where is he gonna take his skill set? And our guy Charles Lee is out there. Like there is some talent in Charlotte. Like it's not completely barren, but I do think that when it comes to LaMelo Ball, it's put up or shut up time. Like, yeah, he's been he's been an all-star or whatever, but it's it's time to actually be a winning player, and actually be able to show something that you can produce that is meaningful. Like, can you actually produce something meaningful? Because that's been the thing that's missing, I think, from LaMelo Ball. I'm looking at my stream here, and if you're watching on YouTube, I'm pretty sure Greg's computer has frozen on him. I think that might be the case. Alex, I don't know if you can shoot Greg a quick text here and see if that's the case. See if we've lost our guy here. Man down is what we're looking like right now for Greg. So as we get IT, aka Alex, our producer, on it here. And let's see, we might have Greg back in the chat. Yeah, we got double feature of Greg right now on the screen. We'll remove one of them. We've got, oh wait, hold on, we brought it back by accident. We're gonna get this correct. All right, Greg, move your hands if you can, if you're there. Okay, we got you.
Okay, here's what happened.
I was freestyling on LaMelo Ball for a while.
But here's the thing. I could hear everything that you were saying. It's just you couldn't hear me anymore. But what happened was I sent you the text message with the 10-page, anti-Semitic thing that the kid sent me. So I want to get your just like initial thoughts when you look at that message and you scroll through it. Shorter or longer than you were expecting?
The fact that that entire pause and I started scrolling while you were still talking, I just finished. Yeah, this is a Jesus Christ, dude. Like, you get all this.
I sent it to you too,
okay.
Alex.
I don't know. I can't process this right now. Yeah, I'm gonna have to read that afterwards. Quick. But
it's a lot of characters. I didn't know you could send all that in one text message. It's insane to me.
If you,
he couldn't have asked. He couldn't have asked for your email first and then sent you that.
That is like, how crazy is that to send that to somebody after not having spoken to them for 5 years?
That's insane. I don't. Are you like pro-Israeli or something? Like, was he trying to prove something to you? Like,
I don't know where this came from. I'm just like, You know what I mean?
Yeah,
don't
I want to know
understand.
why does he get the vibe that this is like, who I haven't talked to in a while that would really get down with this novel idea I have? It's got to be Greg.
Yeah, very strange. I don't put any of that energy out there, genocidal energy out there. So
Yeah.
I don't necessarily understand what happened, but he sent me that message out of the blue, and I somehow made a connection to LaMelo Ball. There you go.
There you go.
All right.
Pretty
All right.
good.
Let's try to wrap this up. I don't know how I'm going to pivot out of this, but I'm going to try here. All right, for my interesting team player there's no way to smoothly do this. I'm gonna go to DeAndre Ayton and the Lakers. And Greg, are you pumped for the decision part 2 tomorrow night? Are you locked in for the
Got to be
tease
a
of all
retirement
teases
thing,
that we
right?
get today? Either that or I don't know. People were saying it's an Amazon ad, Amazon Prime. I don't know. Listen, LeBron's the second greatest player of all time. He's a kick-ass philanthropist. Does a lot of good. He seems like a good dude. His ego is annoying as fuck. I don't care. I don't care. It doesn't matter anymore. Yeah. And the thing for me is DeAndre Ayton. Again, this is where I said I'm coming back to the point you made about Xavier Tillman and what we talked about with Anfernee Simons. DeAndre Ayton, career-wise, he is on the verge of, if he's not already, one of the top 5 or 6 worst number 1 picks. That's where he's in the department trending right now. And I really liked DeAndre Ayton year 3 when the Suns were in the finals, year 4 when the Suns won 60 plus games. Yeah. And dominating has not been there anymore. The last couple of years have been a real disaster for him. And so, for LeBron, who maybe is having his farewell tour, for it to end in the way, and I don't know, I honestly don't even know if LeBron cares. I mean, not that he clearly cares about winning, but I don't think if his career ends in the first or second round, I don't know. He would have made other choices if that was really the number 1 priority, in my opinion. But if it's going to happen on the Lakers, it's all tied to DeAndre Ayton. It really is. Aside from health, the entirety of LeBron's potential final chapter is tied to DeAndre Ayton being a real big man. And that's a hilarious place for LeBron's career to end, is relying on DeAndre Ayton to be a cornerstone big man for them this season. And I'm kind of interested to see it because, again, this is the last chance for DeAndre Ayton to not turn into a 27-year-old former number 1 pick journeyman, right? If he's gonna be something, you're playing with Luka and LeBron, bro.
Will, you know who this just happened to? Ben Simmons.
Ooh.
Ben Simmons isn't on a team. Yeah. It can happen that quickly. If you don't prove that you belong in the NBA with your work ethic, right? And no matter how talented you are, if you don't, to the eccentric genius point again, if you can't look in the mirror and recognize any flaws, you're just not going to last that long in the NBA, man. Everybody is flawed. And when you get to that level, if you don't have the work ethic to distinguish yourself from the other talented players out there, you're going to find your ass out of the league very quickly. And DeAndre Ayton, all the talent in the world, but he is, one underwhelming season away from being right with Ben Simmons and not playing in an NBA game next year.
And that's where LeBron's legacy is going to end. It's going to be whether or not DeAndre Ayton becomes re-energized or becomes Ben Simmons part 2. So I think for me, that's the fascinating point of the Lakers, because I think everyone's going to focus on the Reeves, Luka, LeBron part of it. And it's really ultimately that doesn't matter. Marcus Smart is kind of gross to see in a Lakers uniform. I hope he gets his career back on track, but yeah, already heard. Exactly. Marcus Smart doesn't matter being on the Lakers unless DeAndre Ayton matters, because then it's oh, now we have all this or that. But if they're relying on Jackson Hayes and Maxi Kleber, it just doesn't matter. And something that I've been surprised that has stuck with me this offseason, Greg, I think I mentioned it before. Still hate that you talked me into picking the Lakers to go to the finals when we did our NBA playoff preview. It has stuck with me. Just random points this summer. I've been walking the dog or something. Just I can't believe I let Greg talk me into that. It was so clearly the Thunder, and I was skeptical of the Lakers from the moment they traded AD for Luka. Not of that trade, but of, hey, they don't have a center. Like, you got to have a center to win multiple rounds in the NBA, and they got fucking washed by the by the T.
You hear that, T.
And
Nelson 3? You need to have a center. You need to have a center to be a good NBA team.
Right. A valuable lesson for us going into this season is that if you don't have a center, it's going to be tough to win. But yeah,
well, here's the thing.
Counterpoint
to my point. Let me argue with myself for a second. The Celtics made it to the Eastern Conference
I'll sit
Finals
this one out
with Daniel Tice as their center. Okay. Daniel Tice was an undersized power forward and played center. And he inevitably became the reason why the Celtics didn't make it to the finals, right? Is because he couldn't deal with Bam Adebayo in the bubble, right? So like there's a level, there's a ceiling to what you can accomplish without a center. And the Celtics, unfortunately, have a pretty low ceiling because they don't have a center this year. That's just what it is.
At least,
but maybe
we don't think
maybe
so,
they could be Daniel Tice.
Yeah, maybe Luka Garza will be our Daniel Tice, and Neemias Queta will turn into a healthy Rob Williams. Maybe. And then maybe we have something. We'll see. I don't know, but we're going to find out starting on Wednesday. Celtics Grizzlies get the preseason started. We're going to be streaming after that game. We're going to check in on our bingo cards, see if we're able to knock off a few more squares. We'll recap the game, and then, of course, we will hit you with our new recurring segment, Mediocre Life Updates. Working on the theme music. Don't have it yet. Working on the theme music here. Got a couple of options that we're gonna go through here. So we'll find one for Wednesday after Celtics Grizzlies. Kind of weird they're playing the Grizzlies in the preseason. Feels like we usually play like the Wizards and Raptors and like all these East Coast teams. Grizzlies just feels kind of random, but is what it is. Basketball's back. Doesn't matter. And there's 3 games this week, by the way, Greg. So it's Wednesday, Friday, and Sunday. The Celtics play this week. So throughout the week, basketball is most certainly going to be back. We'll have a lot to talk about Wednesday. Then we'll have a lot to talk about on Sunday next week as well. We're back to 2 episodes a week, likely Sunday/Monday, and then Wednesday are going to be the days that you can expect to find us on YouTube, on Twitter, the next day, that night on Spotify, Apple, wherever it is that you may listen to podcasts. You can find the Green with Envy crew. So for myself, for Greg, for producer Alex, that's going to do it for this episode of Green with Envy. Back at you guys on Wednesday night. Basketball's back, baby. Let's lock in. Peace.